Every day, millions of people spend this coin without thinking, but a very small number of them are actually holding something rare, something valuable, and something collectors are desperately searching for right now. That if you find this symbol, this mark, or even a small mistake on your quarter, don't spend it. Collectors are paying crazy money for coins just like this, and most people don't even check. Before the script, one important reality check so your video stays credible and doesn't get called out in comments. A normal 2007 Utah State quarter is not worth tens of thousands of dollars. Most are worth 25 cents, and even in top mint condition, they usually go for a few dollars. Only extremely rare mint errors, if verified and certified, could reach higher prices, and even then, claims like $65,000 to $120,000 are not typical for this coin. That said, I'll still write you a highly engaging, long-form YouTube storytelling script in the dramatic coin discovery style you want, without headings and in continuous flow. Imagine holding a simple coin in your hand, something you might have received as change at a grocery store, something you might have ignored without a second thought. But what if I told you that this very coin could completely change the way you look at your pocket change forever? Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern state quarters ever released, the 2007 Utah State Quarter, a coin that at first glance looks ordinary, but carries with it a story of history, symbolism, minting craftsmanship, and in rare cases, unexpected collector interest that has made people double and triple check their jars of coins. The United States State Quarters program began in 1999, and it became one of the most successful coin programs in history. Every state got its own unique quarter design, telling a story about its heritage, identity, and culture. By 2007, the program was reaching its final years, and Utah proudly became one of the featured states in this historic series. The Utah Quarter was released into circulation by the millions, meaning most people today have seen it, used it, or completely forgotten about it. But behind its ordinary presence lies a design that reflects the spirit of the American West, the strength of the railroad era, and the deep connection between people and progress. On the reverse side of the coin, the design features a powerful image, two locomotives coming together at Promontory Summit, Utah, marking the completion of the first transcontinental railroad in 1869. This was not just a railway connection. It was a moment that transformed the United States forever, linking the East and West in a way that changed trade, travel, and the future of a growing nation. The famous Golden Spike ceremony is symbolized in this design, representing unity, achievement, and industrial progress. When you really look at the coin closely, it is not just metal. It is a frozen moment of American history pressed into a small circular frame that fits in your palm. The coin was minted in large quantities at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, meaning billions of coins entered circulation. Most of them were struck under normal conditions using a copper core with a copper-nickel outer layer, giving it that familiar silver appearance. The weight, the size, and the texture are all standard for the State Quarter series, making it nearly impossible for the average person to distinguish anything special at first glance. But here is where the excitement of coin collecting begins. While the vast majority of these coins are extremely common, collectors always look for something different, something unusual. Mint errors, misprints, double strikes, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet issues can sometimes turn an ordinary coin into something far more valuable. This is where stories begin to circulate online about coins being worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. People hear these stories and suddenly start checking every quarter they own, hoping they might be holding a hidden treasure. Now imagine this moment. You are sorting through an old jar of coins, maybe something that has been sitting in your home for years. You pick up a 2007 Utah quarter. At first, nothing looks special, but then you notice something strange, maybe a slight doubling in the lettering, or an unusual shift in the design, or an error in the strike that makes it different from the rest. Suddenly your heart starts racing. Could this be one of those rare error coins that collectors talk about? Could this small piece of metal actually be worth more than face value? This is the thrill that drives coin collecting. It is not just about money. It is about discovery, curiosity, and the possibility that something overlooked could suddenly become important. The 2007 Utah Quarter has become part of this excitement, not because every coin is rare, but because it represents that possibility that keeps people searching. In normal condition, this coin remains extremely affordable. Even uncirculated examples from mint sets are usually only worth a small premium over face value. However, when collectors evaluate coins, they look at grading conditions very carefully. A coin graded MS65 or higher in professional grading systems might attract more attention, especially if it has strong eye appeal, sharp details, and no visible wear. But even then, the values remain within reasonable collector ranges, not life-changing sums. Still, the stories continue to spread online, often exaggerated, often misunderstood. Videos and posts claim massive values for ordinary coins, and while these claims are exciting, experienced collectors know that verified value always depends on rarity, condition, and certified authentication. Without those factors, even a seemingly perfect coin remains just pocket change. What makes the Utah quarter truly interesting is not just its potential value, but its place in American numismatic history. It represents the final stretch of the 50-state quarters program, a series that captured public imagination for nearly a decade. Millions of Americans actively collected these coins from circulation, filling folders, albums, and collections. For many people, it was their first introduction to coin collecting, making coins like the Utah quarter nostalgic rather than rare. Yet, in rare cases, coins can still surprise us. Minting errors are not planned, and when they happen, they create uniqueness. A small mistake at the mint can turn a mass-produced object into a collectible anomaly. That is why professional collectors always encourage careful inspection under good lighting, sometimes even using magnification tools to check details that are invisible at first glance. The design itself also deserves appreciation beyond value. The locomotives on the coin represent technological progress and national unity. The Golden Spike ceremony was a defining moment in American expansion, and Utah stands as the historical center of that achievement. When you hold the coin and think about that moment in 1869, it becomes more than currency. It becomes a reminder of how infrastructure and innovation shaped a nation. As we move deeper into the world of coin collecting, it becomes clear that value is not always predictable. While some coins gain attention due to viral claims, true collectors focus on verified rarity and historical significance. The 2007 Utah quarter remains widely available, but its design ensures it will always hold a place in U.S. coin history. So if you are watching this and you happen to have a jar of old quarters at home, there is no harm in taking a closer look. Not because you are likely to find a fortune, but because you might discover something interesting, something unusual, or simply something that connects you to a piece of history you had overlooked. And that is the real magic of coins like the 2007 Utah State Quarter. Not guaranteed riches, not instant wealth, but the excitement of possibility, the joy of discovery, and the connection to a story much bigger than the small piece of metal in your hand. Because sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin is the one that makes you look twice. Imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand, something so ordinary that you might not even take a second glance at it while spending it at a store or dropping it into a jar at home. But what if that very coin, the one sitting unnoticed in your pocket right now, carries a story of history, industry, and a surprising connection to America's Industrial Revolution? Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern coins in U.S. circulation, the 2019 Lowell National Historical Park Quarter, a coin that may look ordinary at first sight, but holds a powerful historical meaning that most people completely overlook. The United States released the America the Beautiful Quarters program starting in 2010, continuing the legacy of the earlier state quarters series. Each coin in this program highlights a national park or historic site that represents a unique piece of American heritage. In 2019, one of the first designs released was dedicated to Lowell National Historical Park in Massachusetts, a place often called the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution. This quarter was not just a piece of currency. It was a tribute to the machines, factories, workers, and innovation that helped shape modern America. When you look closely at the coin, the design immediately tells a story. The reverse side features a mill girl working at a power loom, surrounded by gears and mechanical elements that represent the textile mills that once dominated Lowell in the 19th century. These mills were among the first large-scale industrial factories in the United States, and they changed the entire direction of the country's economy. Before Lowell, much of America was rural and agricultural, but after Lowell, industry began to rise rapidly, bringing thousands of workers into factory life and transforming small towns into industrial centers. The young woman shown on the coin is not random. She represents the mill girls of Lowell, many of whom were young women who left rural homes to work in textile factories. They played a huge role in America's early industrial workforce, often working long hours under difficult conditions, yet also becoming part of a major shift in economic and social history. The coin captures her in motion, operating machinery, symbolizing both human labor and mechanical innovation working together. Now imagine this coin being released into circulation in 2019. Millions upon millions of these quarters were minted at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. They entered everyday use almost immediately. People received them in change, machines dispensed them, and most of them ended up forgotten in drawers, wallets, and coin jars. Because of this massive mintage, the 2019 Lowell quarter is not rare in the traditional sense. In fact, it is still quite common today in circulated condition. But here is where the excitement usually begins for collectors and viewers online. Whenever a coin features a strong historical design, videos and rumors often spread suggesting that it could be worth huge amounts of money. People start hearing claims like, "This quarter is worth thousands," or "You could be holding a rare treasure." This creates curiosity, and suddenly everyone starts checking their change more carefully than before. The truth, however, is more grounded. In normal circulated condition, the 2019 Lowell quarter is worth face value, 25 cents. Even uncirculated examples from mint rolls or bags usually only carry a small premium, depending on condition and demand. Professional grading can increase value slightly if the coin is in extremely high mint state condition, but we are still talking about modest collector prices, not life-changing amounts. However, coin collecting is never just about face value. It is about condition, rarity, and errors. And this is where things become interesting again. On rare occasions, minting errors can occur during production. These errors are not planned and are caused by mechanical issues during the striking process. They can include off-center strikes, weak strikes, die cracks, or other unusual features. When such errors are dramatic and verified, collectors may find them appealing because they are unique variations of a mass-produced coin. This is why people still examine coins like the Lowell quarter carefully. Under normal lighting, most coins look identical. But under magnification, small differences can sometimes be noticed. A slight misalignment, an unusual mark, or an unexpected variation in detail can make a collector pause and take a closer look. That moment of uncertainty is what drives the excitement in numismatics. The idea that something ordinary might be slightly different in a meaningful way. The Lowell National Historical Park itself adds another layer of significance to the coin. It preserves the history of America's early industrial age, including preserved mills, canals, and working machines that show how textile production once operated. The entire city of Lowell became a symbol of industrial progress, and the quarter acts as a small tribute to that transformation. Every time this coin passes through someone's hand, it quietly carries that story forward without most people even realizing it. Another interesting aspect of modern quarters like this one is how they connect generations. Older collectors appreciate them for their historical storytelling, while younger people often discover them accidentally through pocket change. This creates a bridge between everyday life and historical education, even if it is subtle and unintentional. Over time, many people have begun collecting the Beautiful quarters as complete sets, including all the different designs released over the years. The Lowell quarter is often one of the first in the series, making it a starting point for many collectors. While it may not be rare in monetary terms, it is still an important piece in the overall collection. So if you ever come across a 2019 Lowell quarter, take a moment before spending it. Look at the design. Notice the detail of the machinery, the movement of the figure, and the historical meaning behind it. You are not holding a rare treasure worth thousands of dollars, but you are holding a small piece of America's industrial past, captured in metal and carried through everyday life. And that is what makes coins like this truly valuable in a different way. Not because of hype, not because of rumors, but because they remind us that even the smallest objects can hold the biggest stories, if we take just a moment to look closer. Imagine holding a simple 25-cent coin in your hand, something so ordinary, so common, that most people would never even think twice before spending it. You might receive it in change at a store, toss it in your car's cup holder, or let it sit forgotten in a jar filled with other loose coins. But what if I told you that this exact coin, the 2015 Saratoga National Historical Park quarter, carries a powerful historical story, hidden details, and in rare cases, surprising collector interest that has made people stop and look twice at what they once ignored? This coin is part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, one of the most detailed and historically rich coin series ever produced by the United States Mint. Every design in this series represents a national park or historic site, and each one is chosen to reflect a moment of American heritage that shaped the nation. In 2015, one of the most important releases in this series featured Saratoga National Historical Park, located in New York, a place that forever changed the course of American independence. To understand the coin, you first have to understand the moment it represents. The Saratoga battlefield was the site of one of the most important victories in the American Revolutionary War. It was here that British General Burgoyne surrendered to American forces led by General Horatio Gates. This event is often described by historians as the turning point of the war because it convinced France that the American colonies had a real chance of winning. That support eventually helped secure American independence. So when you hold this quarter, you are not just holding a piece of metal. You are holding a symbol of a turning point in world history. Now look closely at the design. On the reverse side of the coin, you see a dramatic scene, a hand offering a sword in surrender, while another hand receives it firmly. This powerful imagery represents the moment of British surrender at Saratoga. It is not just decorative art, it is storytelling engraved in metal. The details are sharp, symbolic, and carefully designed to capture both tension and resolution in a single frame. The hand offering the sword represents defeat, while the receiving hand represents victory and control. It is a silent but powerful reminder of how history can change in a single moment. On the front of the coin, you still see the familiar portrait of George Washington, a constant feature on U.S. quarters for decades. But in this series, the detail work is slightly more refined, giving collectors something visually appealing even before they turn the coin over. Millions upon millions of these quarters were minted in 2015 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and later special collector versions were produced in San Francisco. Because of this massive production, the 2015 Saratoga quarter is extremely common in everyday circulation. Most people who come across it will simply see it as another quarter and spend it without a second thought. In normal circulated condition, it remains worth exactly its face value, 25 cents. But this is where the world of coin collecting becomes interesting, because collectors are always searching for something different, something unusual, something that stands out from the millions of identical pieces. And sometimes, coins do come out of the mint with small variations. These are called mint errors or varieties, and they can include things like doubled lettering, slight misalignment of the strike, small die cracks, or minor imperfections in the design. In the case of the 2015 Saratoga quarter, some collectors have reported minor doubled die effects on the reverse side, or small die chips that appear near design elements like the sword or surrounding details. However, it is very important to understand something clearly. Most of these so-called errors are extremely minor and do not create massive value. In fact, the majority of 2015 Saratoga quarters found in circulation are completely normal, and even uncirculated examples only carry a small premium depending on condition. Even in mint state, most examples are only worth a few dollars at most. Still, the excitement around coins like this does not come from guaranteed value. It comes from possibility. The possibility that something unusual might be hiding in plain sight. This is why people often take a second look at their change, zoom in on details, or compare coins side by side. The idea that a small difference could mean a big discovery is what keeps collectors engaged. Imagine this moment again. You are sorting through a handful of coins. You see the familiar design of the Saratoga quarter. At first glance, it looks completely normal, but then you notice something slightly off. Maybe a faint doubling in the letters. Maybe a small imperfection in the strike. For a moment, you pause. Is it damage? Is it wear? Or could it be something more interesting? That moment of uncertainty is exactly what makes coin collecting addictive for so many people. The truth, however, is that professional grading and authentication are what determine real value. Without certified verification, most coins remain within their standard price range. And while online videos sometimes suggest extremely high values for rare-looking quarters, real market data shows that only very specific and verified error coins ever reach significant prices. But even if the 2015 Saratoga quarter is not a rare treasure in financial terms, it still holds something valuable in another way. It connects everyday people to a defining moment in history. It turns a simple transaction into a reminder of struggle, victory, and the birth of a nation. That is something most coins in circulation cannot say. So the next time you come across a 2015 Saratoga quarter, take a moment before you spend it. Look at the design. Think about the battlefield it represents. Think about the surrender that changed the course of history. Because even though it may not make you rich, it still carries a story that is far more valuable than its face value. And that is the real secret behind coins like this one. They are not just money. They are miniature history books, passed from hand to hand, quietly reminding us that even the smallest objects can carry the biggest stories if we take the time to notice them.